So this may be a side note too, and we can cut this if you want to write down this time. But so we actually had this conversation way back when we worked together at Stewart, right? And we got together one day. It's one of those meetings you had just with your leadership team, and we just talked about finding that work life balance, right? And for one, it was a couple of team members, me being included, that would work through the evening, right? We didn't. We just that's just what we did. It was almost recreational, right? To go work my 8 hours during the day, come home in the evening, and as we're watching a movie or a TV show, me go and clean out old devices out of Zenprise or whatever MDM we were using at the time, right? To clear those uh, devices out. But we got to a point where we were messaging and emailing each other in the leadership group, and you had to put a stop to it, right? You said, "Hey, we have to be respectful of each other's time." Not only that, we shouldn't send messages and expect a reply back, right? Even if you send a message, that's on you. That's fine to ask a question, but don't expect a reply back until 8 a.m. the next morning when the person is supposed to be on the clock, right? We shouldn't be sending messages all night through the evening, or we shouldn't feel obligated to have to reply back to these messages either. And I remember that was one of the lessons I had to learn early on about not only finding that work life balance, one, not working so much, but two, not expecting other people on your team to be able to work like that. So yeah, yeah, just I guess it should just to sum it up, it should be on the sender, I mean the receiver to be able to manage how they and what times they want to get those notifications.
And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people just keep their phone on silent. Period.
Right,
End of
right.
story. Right. And they don't want to have all of the notifications popping up on every single device that they own. And so
Yeah,
there's something to be said for that. I mean, if I really part of the problem with society today, at least in the US, is this fear of missing out, or this it bleeds into talking about work-life balance. And
hmm,
this is my other podcast. I've talked a lot about this, right? But
right,
this whole concept of, in the US, we don't tend to take all of our vacation time, which is already much less than people in Europe, for example, right?
right,
And so we get less right off the bat, and we don't take what we get. Excuse me. And a lot of the research, excuse me, a lot of companies have gone to unlimited vacation.
right.
And the reason they go, well, there's two reasons they go to that. Number one is that in some states, because you don't accrue vacation, they don't have to pay it out when you leave, right? So you don't get this
Yeah,
big giant payout of 6 weeks of vacation that you've accrued that you were never able to take. That's one of the
yeah.
reasons. But the other reason they do that is because um, studies have shown that when you have unlimited vacation, you take less vacation. And
Really? Wow.
part of that is this fear of, if I take vacation, how am I going to be perceived, and are there going to be negative
Yeah,
consequences and all that kind of stuff. And it takes the right kind of boss, and I hope that I have been, and that I would always be the kind of the boss that would encourage people to take their time and to find that work life balance. That's just one example
right.
that you gave, but it takes the right kind of boss for you to be able to do that. I mean, at my last job, I was the acting director while my boss took a six month sabbatical,
Yeah.
and it was, or 6 month leave of absence, not sabbatical, but
Hmm.
6 month leave of absence, to try and get things in her life where she wanted them. And it was her boss that suggested that she do that. Right? He said, "Hey,
Right,
instead of resigning, because she was getting to that point, take a leave of absence. Let me see if I can get HR to approve that." Right? And
right.
so, which is great. And you and I have a mutual friend who doesn't listen to this podcast, but listens to my other one, who a few weeks ago said, "I'm trying to figure out when I can take my vacation."
Right.
And the reason she was trying to figure out when she could take it is because, oh, I have this on this day, and I have this for the company, and this and this and this. It was always about, it's not convenient for the company for me to take my time off. So she struggles to schedule it and get her time off in. And I'm always
Right.
reminding her, you got to take your time, right? So there's something to be said for that. And so if we round up this part of this tip, right, which is about, really was about not getting texts when you don't want them, use these devices, right? Use these devices to set those focus modes, or
Right.
don't be afraid to turn off your notifications. I mean, I got to the point at Stewart when we were working there, and in my last regular job too, where when I go on vacation, I turn off the email from the company on my
Hmm.
phone. I would just completely turn it off. I would go in and I would hide it and I would hide the calendar, and that was it. That was the only way I could go out to, let's say I was at an amusement park or something, right? And I needed to wait in
Hmm.
line to get on a ride. If there was a notification badge on the email, I was going to look at it, right? And then you get
Right.
sucked in to that. So,
Right. Right.
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Never turn it off.
yeah, we're going to leave this in. I put down the timestamps, but we're going to leave it in because I
Okay.
think it's good to talk about that, because these devices, either we can control them
Hmm.
or we can allow them to control us. And what information we consume when is something we definitely can control on these devices.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, let's leave that in. I thought it was a good conversation. I took that lesson with me for years since we had that meeting, and I've given that lesson to so many other people, coworkers and friends, family members, and all of that. It's finding that work life balance because if and the company doesn't care, right? They'll be fair. They'll pay you for your time, but you know, if you're going to work, they're going to accept the work, right?
Yeah.
If you work
Especially if
your
you're
eight
on
hours,
salary, right?
right? If you're
Especially
on
if you're on
salary,
salary.
yeah, and you're up 3 hours in the evening tightening up reports or something like that, they don't care. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah, no, that was a good lesson. You should leave that in,
Yeah. And good lesson. And then you and I went to work for ourselves, which is a
right?
whole other,
Right, because there's no work life balance here, and I
yeah.
fight every day to try to make something
Yeah.
seem
And,
like I have a work life balance.
right. And I thought about this over the weekend. I mentioned that I'm going into my slow time. You're going into your busy time. I'm
Right.
going into my slower time because people are going to start taking their time off and all that kind of stuff. And it drives me crazy. I can't let myself just, I mean, I was out of town for my dad's memorial service and I'm still thinking about what should I be working on? What should I be working on? What should I be? And Jason's over there
Right.
going, yeah, 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 we know. We know you.
Right.
This is
Right.
exactly
No,
what you
but
do.
this is what I was telling you Friday when I messaged you. Like, enjoy that time. Enjoy every minute. Check out for a little bit, like I do when I'm on the ship. Right. I don't want to. I don't want to deal with anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?